there so you can jump right into it.
Okay, super. DDD. Thank you. We're having Twilight Zone music being played by Dwayne Jenkins. Thank you, Dwayne. Okay, fading away and cutting into clarity is a questioning process. We're going to be exploring one of the, we're working through the 10 beliefs that can make anyone highly successful. So that's one of the key points here that we've been working on for the last few weeks. We're on episode, believe it or not, is this episode 25?
Yes, it is.
This is, yeah, freaking amazing. So we've been doing this for a while. So more or less close to half a year now of doing this. And this one is all about clarity. So I'm going to start this one off a little bit here and just sort of share. This is a spin-off of a mind model, clarity versus certainty. And I want to talk to you guys because some of you may know we have a few newbies on here tonight, and some of you out there that are on Facebook or YouTube, you guys may be wondering, okay, what is this Blair Dunkley Experience thing? What is it all about? Well, it's all about the whole ability to transfer people away from mindset thinking that is terribly broken. And let me just ask you a question around mindset. Okay. You know, have you ever had an experience in your life where you had a good mindset and then all of a sudden it sort of like was sand through a sieve where it just sort of fell out and you couldn't sustain your mindset? Debbie, have you had that experience?
Maybe. What came to mind first was, I don't know that I feel like I ever had a great mindset.
Okay, fair ball, because that's one of the other things that I find some people, do you feel like you should have a great mindset if you're in business?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should, but I can't seem to find it. Vanessa, what about you?
Yeah, I had a great mindset, and it's always, for some reason, in my mind, I know this is wrong or not
effective.
It's not effective to call it like this, but the way that I viewed it, that a person mind frame messed up my mental when I thought that I was going good, you know?
Mm-hmm. So it didn't really align with everything the way that you were hoping it would. Is that
yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. Dwayne, I'll save the best for last. What was yours? And what transition for you around mindset versus mind models?
Well, I kept running into brick walls with mindset. It was just failing me at every angle. I thought I had the perfect mindset. A problem would present itself, and I didn't have the answer and really didn't know how to go about finding the answer. And then after being introduced to you, you've showed me avenues of working through and figuring out effective answers to problems.
Cool. We're going to be diving into mindset. Into mind models. But mindset is the thing where most people get into and they try, or they have it like I did. My personal experience is I used to train people when I was in my late 20s, early 30s on mindset, and unfortunately, or mid 20s to late 20s. And when I was 28, my dad went into a coma, and all of my teachers and mentors on mindset training, on visualization, on all of that stuff kept telling me when my mindset failed that I really didn't have a good mindset in the first place because it wouldn't fail. Well, I also was trained as a life skills coach. So I knew how to cope, I knew how to problem solve, and I knew how to deal with this, with trauma and tragedies. And the stuff that they were telling me just didn't hold water anymore. So I was overwhelmed with disappointment, overwhelmed with sadness, that my father was now in a coma, which he was in for 14 years before he passed. And I was left stripped down. Sorry for using this language, but I felt like stripped down naked, where everything that I thought I had was taken away from me, and it wasn't fair and it wasn't right. And I went, this isn't okay. And that's when I kicked into high gear around, because I had Life Skills College there, where I could actually start researching and figuring out a better way. Now, the cool thing was, it was the government of Canada had spent $42 million on defining a thing called life skills and a 5-year research project. And they gave fundamental science behind it, and they gave clear models of how to continue on, because they wrapped up the project. But the researchers, some of whom I know personally and very, very well, they went out and one of the key psychologists in there dumped, I don't know, 3-5 cartons of books and background documentation and all kinds of research papers on my lap, because he said, Blair, here, dig through this. There are answers in here. So I rummaged around and I found some stuff, but the most important thing was I found the structure of how to do the research, because it was identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. So that was the key thing that they kept on going back to. Those 3 principles, everything that they did had to be identified. It had to be, and I created a mind model because they just said it had to be identified. Well, I said naming and labeling, and I created a protocol for how naming and labeling has to work. And by the way, you can go back through the mind models that we have in our library there for you. And we've got one on naming and labeling there. It's very important and very, very powerful. The next one is repeatability. You've got to be able to do it over again and get a similar result. So you have to be able to repeat it over and over and over again to get a similar result. And thirdly, it has to be duplicatable. And that means it has to be able to model it so it can be transferred to somebody else, so that it's not just all caught up in your head and you can't get it through to other people. And the way that they put all of this stuff together was not to train, people as trainers of this, although they did that as well, but the students of this can role model just by doing the behaviors of mind models or of life skills. And that in and of itself creates a model that somebody else can now duplicate more or less successfully in their life. It's got to be that simple. And that's how you create an infectious spread of this, so that people who were sent to us that had mental health challenges and whatnot, and were usually living on welfare, had multi-generational welfare issues. One person in one household could start shifting that entire household by behaving differently. And that was the power of life skills. And that's also the power of mind models, because as we go forward, we're getting that same effect again and again and again and again, because it's identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. And you can influence others because it just is a simpler way. And people's brains, they like burning less fuel. The more calories you make that brain burn, the more effort it is, the less likely they are to do it. But if you simplify it down and you just start through role modeling, you do it, people will sort of gradually just migrate over and behave differently, which is really cool. It's very, backdoor type of training that you wind up doing. And it's not really training. It's just people just absorb a more effective way. And it's simply by changing language. And that was such a breakthrough, that it actually makes it simpler so that we can help people make just small shifts in their thinking. And those small shifts using mind models enable them to literally gain the clarity needed to accomplish their goals on a way more identifiable, predictable, and duplicatable basis, which means they get to their goals faster and more easily. So, all of that starts in there. and going together. So those are the key pieces. How do we ask questions here, Blair?
I didn't want to interrupt you, and I was like,
just ask.
Oh, yeah, just interrupt him. Like,
yeah, or just wait. You're on here because I'm going, Debbie. Yeah, like, yeah. What do you want to know? What do you want to ask? Yeah,
I was just trying to. I just wanted to clarify. So the things that are identifiable and repeatable and duplicatable are the mind model things, or are the mindset things? Is that what you're talking about?
No, mindset. No, a mindset is not. Mindset, okay. I can't.
Absolutely not.
That's where I am at odds with mindset, because mindset people say it is. And I go, bullshit. Mm-hmm. I was a trainer in that. I had trainers of trainers teaching me how to do this. And when they tell me that it's my problem and that I am falling apart because I can't do those things to get the same kind of state that, because, okay, here's the fundamentals. Number one, it dawned on me after the fact. Mindset is belief-based. Okay? So you have to just believe in yourself. And therefore, you're not believing in yourself. So you have a problem, Blair. You have a big problem because you're not believing. Okay? It's worse than faith, because faith is acknowledged that it's faith in something that's unseeable, whereas mindset is supposed to be a result-oriented thing that you get a result with through a belief. Well, beliefs are not the place to begin. And that was proven in the life skills research. It's behaviors. Every single thing that you believe in is based on behaviors, either behaviors you observe somebody else doing or behaviors that you did yourself. And those build beliefs. Those are the building blocks of all of your beliefs. But if you don't have those fundamental little building blocks, those mind models, you can't get to mindset. See, we will build a mindset, but I don't want to talk about that because that's just an afterthought here.
You know what?
Go ahead.
You know what? Crazy thing, I was thinking like last week is that people tell you what to do, but not the how to do it. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Exactly, because we break it down into not just the what, but the what and the how.
Yeah, that's exactly what I need for sure. It's like I know what I'm supposed to do. Like I know exactly what I should be doing, but it's like, how do I get there? How do I get to that?
Come on this webinar and I'll show you some of the fundamentals. Like that's what we're here to do. And like today, it's like, okay, we're going to be clarity. And right in the title of this, clarity is a questioning process. Okay, so it's, what is it? It's clarity. How do we get it? Questioning processes. It's like all broken down right in there, right in the title of this thing. It's like those two things. Now, we have to learn how to question effectively and a few other things, and we need to stay out of whys and go into what's and hows and a bunch of other stuff we'll be addressing. But fundamentally, it's this whole thing. And most people are going after certainty. Certainty is not a questioning process. Certainty is a telling process. It's like you, Vanessa, telling me, you're supposed to believe in yourself, Blair. You know, or me telling you, Vanessa, just believe you're a great gal, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're good looking, believe in yourself and you'll get someplace. It feels good for like 30 seconds, maybe, or maybe 2 or 3. And then it falls off immediately when you turn around and take your first step away from that support. You fall flat on your face because what do I do now?
Yep.
Well, what you do now is you build mind models that are behaviorally based, that you do not even have to believe if they work. You just have to test them and do them, and they will work 80% of the time or better. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
So that's different than anything else. Actually, I'm going to pick on Debbie a little bit here because she just did you're training your kids, you're teaching your kids, you're setting expectation for your kids. You're going, like that sort of thing, which is perfect because you're role modeling a behavior and setting an expectation. Well, that's what we do all the time. It's no different. It's the same fundamental principles that we used raising our kids. It's nothing different than that. And just building out the whole pieces going forward and making this stuff work. Make sense? Okay. So with that done, we're going to go forward here and go, clarity is a questioning process. So what does that mean? It means that it's okay not to have answers. Like, at last, I don't have to be perfect to go forward. I just have to be curious. And curiosity is another one of the core competencies in mind models where you need to be able to get curious and question. So it's about being prepared to ask questions and get answers. And that is the way that you you truly get to a successful resolution, is by asking questions and getting answers. Now, you have to ask effective questions and you have to be able to evaluate those questions. But again, evaluation versus judgment is another mind model that we've taught earlier. So you can go back into our library and start digging that out and get a very clear idea as to what an evaluation is. So Dwayne, I'm going to, since you've been around and you've done this, you're going to get pop quizzed here tonight. So pop quiz, what's the difference between evaluation and a judgment?
Well, a judgment is just that. You're judging something based on pretty much your beliefs. Or an evaluation, you're taking verifiable evidence and looking at it.
Okay. Trevor, improve upon that. Because that's all solid, but we're going to...
I did find that was solid. I would maybe add that judgment tends to have emotion loaded first. It's a reactive process.
It's a reactive process.
Whereas evaluation, it's more of weighing out. You're weighing things out, and like he said, it's got to be external. What else would I add?
What would you take and pair that external with a judgment? What's the other
side? So whereas a judgment is internal. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you can simply identify. You got the essence of it. Both of you did. Awesome job. Thanks, guys. But the issue here is judgment is always 100% of the time internally verifiable. Internal verification. In other words, you determine that you're right by yourself and nobody can tell you that you're wrong. Because you're right.
What do you guys think he means by that when he says, like Vanessa or Debbie, what do you think he means when he says it's internal? Like, what does that mean to you guys, since you guys are new? I'm curious.
Maybe it's just like an emotional, based on your belief systems that have already been set in your mind. Something like that.
So how do you, great. So how do you know when something is internal and not external? How do you tell the difference between the two?
When you connect your emotions to it.
Not necessarily. What else has to be there? Not just emotions. Emotions will be there, but when you connect your emotions to it, you can be externally verifying and connect emotions to those as well and feel pretty darn good. Okay. When do you actually wind up loading the emotion with a judgment?
Almost immediately, I'd say.
Debbie?
See, I'm just thinking like internal, like it to me, the internally verifiable means it's what I'm thinking through. It's the beliefs that I've created in my head.
Yes, it is.
Before you identify the facts, you're making a judgment based on your past.
Exactly, Dwayne.
Okay.
Exactly. So
Okay.
it's past-based
on experience.
determination, which means we can't share that experience right now because it's from your past. See, I can't, unless I had a time machine, and I don't, and nobody's got one. So we can't go back there together. And even if you recall it, it's from your perspective. So it's all your opinion about what you think happened.
Okay.
So it can't be verified. Whereas evaluations
that makes sense.
are always externally verifiable. So you can always get feedback from other people about the same thing so that you can collect data points. It's sort of like when you're testing online and you're testing an ad. You actually go out there and put it up and see how people actually respond, which means it's externally verifiable. It's not you saying, oh, I bet $100 on this Facebook ad that this is going to bring me business. Oh, damn, it didn't. Well, I'm going to bet $100 on this ad because I know it's going to work. And when you say, I know it's going to work, you don't know it's going to work. That's a judgment. That's not a fact. It's not externally verifiable.
That's like, whoa, like that just totally clicked.
Totally.
Awesome.
That is awesome. Okay, so one of the other things that happened to me today is I got, how do I do that? Oh, I've got a quick idea. So, Catherine, shoot. I got notification. Well, anyway, Catherine put out on a Facebook thing our Christmas tree challenge. And we had 2 pictures here of we decorate 2 Christmas trees each year. And we have a Christmas tree decorating contest. And this year, we had the People's Choice Awards. We also have judges, 3 judges that actually judge this thing. And we have had winners and losers every year for the last 3 years. I've lost twice. I've won once. My wife has won twice and lost once. And not a big deal that way. But the interesting thing is that the judges and the People's Choice Awards aligned on the same tree. Interesting. So we have verifiable evidence that the judges judged effectively. So we had a 50-48 vote split, and my tree got 48% and the other tree got 52%. So anyway, that was it. That was and I was going to show you pictures and let you guys choose, but that's what and there was, I don't know, over 100 people voting on this. So we have a distinct winner and we know what people like. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. It's verifiable. And that's the cool part of all of this stuff is when you evaluate things, you can test, and it's not an opinion. It's a fact. You get a real result. Okay? So that's the real
Blair,
thing.
what are some of the most common mistakes people make when they're in a questioning process and seeking clarity?
Sorry, can you ask that one more time?
What are the most common mistakes that people make when they're asking questions, when their goal is to get clarity?
They ask their opinion. They ask themselves, they do internal dialogue. They're talking to themselves and they're sort of asking themselves a question. Well, which one do I think is more effective? Well, the whole point here is the second that you go internal to yourself, you've blown it, right out of the gate. You can have that opinion. That's not a problem. But the first question that you ask is, how might I verify this information? How might I find out what it actually is? Who can I get? Like years ago when I was at university, there was this very interesting stats professor, and they were connected with the psychologist and the psych department. And at the end of the day, it was always about collecting subjective information and making it objective. And that's the weird thing about it, is when you take subjective information and you only have one participant, it is always subjective. It is always just that one person's opinion. It may be effective and may be ineffective, but you don't know, because it's just one person's opinion. You take 100 plus people or even 10 people and you start getting a trend. When you've got 100 people or 1,000 max, you probably have in fact, statistically, at 1,000 people, you will have what millions believe statistically. It will bear out time and time and time again. So the issue around the statistical analysis of large numbers means it is not subjective. It is objective. It is factual. It is the thing that actually makes things work. So that opinion of one person is just an opinion, but an opinion of 100 people or 1,000 people or 5,000 people, which we do at EMP, and we're trying to have it, our ad shown to at least 5,000 people and see what that comes out as. That's now not up for debate anymore. We know we have a winner because it's statistically proven that we'll get there. And it's not an opinion, it's fact. And that's where we place our bet at that time. And that's not a bet, that's an investment. So we just took an investment, a bet, and turn it into a real world investment because it's highly, highly predictable. So that's a big differentiator. Another issue here is people will ask themselves emotionally loaded information. Well, I know because I've been through this myself. Well, I know for myself, like sometimes you can get verifiable evidence, but if you notice in my story about mindset, I went back to my mentors and to my trainers, and I said, okay, where am I breaking this down? And what might I do differently? Well, it came back to, you're not believing in yourself. And I go, how do I rebuild this belief structure of having a great mindset, which I had, but I don't have right now? How do I get that back under these conditions that I'm in my life? Nobody had an answer for me. Not one alternative way of being, which was mind-blowing to me. How can this be? These people are all there, and life was going along great for me, and now it's going sideways. Okay, so what do you need to do differently? Well, again, the answer came back is asking questions to gain clarity rather than certainty. And one of the key things that I found is that mindset breeds a sense of certainty. You become certain that your way of seeing the world is the right way, which we know just doesn't work. Take IBM, take Xerox. Those companies, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, were way bigger than they are today. And now they're not. They're almost like dinosaurs. They're going the way of the dodo. They're dying off. How come? Because their model of the world, they were certain it was going to last. And when you get certain like that, you don't adapt. You don't change. You don't find a better way because you're right and everybody else is wrong. And it comes back down to judgmental words like right, wrong, good, bad. Those are some of the key elements that are in there that just drive a whole lot of issues for people. And that doesn't aid in people adapting and changing and adjusting. And that's one of the things that is great about clarity, because clarity, you always go for getting things clear. You don't quit questioning. You're always questioning.
And I'm hearing that you're wanting to ask questions that you can actually go out and verify somehow instead of just going back internal and making judgments. You can ask yourself questions, but if you're just making judgment-based responses to those, then you're not really seeking clarity. You're still going after certainty or judgment.
Are you going to actually change anything if you ask yourself a question like, so, why did this not work for me again? So
you could end up with some pretty nasty responses pretty quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're just going to beat yourself up, and then you're going to go out there and look at the problem using the same kind of literally what Vanessa?
Sorry, like that is exactly what's going on with me today. Oh my gosh. It's something that's going on in my marriage. I don't know, like I had a marriage that failed, and then this one is taking a wrong turn. So I was actually thinking that the exact same thing today is, how did I do this wrong again? Like, how did this happen again? What do I need to do to change my way of thinking about this, you know?
Well, let's, if you don't mind, can we sort of pick on that one a bit?
Go ahead.
Okay,
Please.
so one of the issues here is really straightforward. It's where can you go and find a different way to start taking a look at the information? So one of the things that I would take a look at is find out, when my wife and I have discussions, fights, disagreements, whatever, one of the things that we wind up doing is finding out, well, what am I missing out of your point of view? What is making you have that point of view? And what piece are you looking at that I'm not seeing? And when you have that level of conversation, and I am curious, I really want to know, the funny thing is that when I do this curiosity building piece, I notice that my wife also tends to get curious. So it's like she's looking at doing that because, number one, I'm trying to understand her. What caused me to have issues in earlier relationships was when I constantly wanted everybody, well, my partner, my girlfriend at the time, to understand me first. And when I needed to be understood, and I had little to no patience for understanding her because she was wanting to be understood first, then we were always positioning and fighting and going back and forth. Well, what happens if somebody just says, hold it, I want to understand you first. You matter to me. I want this to understand you. And maybe afterwards, if you're interested, you can work at understanding me too. Just saying if. Not saying you have to, just if. And Rebecca just said the whole dynamic changes. That's so true. Everything changes right at that point. Because all of a sudden, the questions that you ask are now ones of curiosity. In the questioning process, I don't have time to go through all of that again, but it's in earlier mind models here. But in the questioning process, you do three things. Well, I'm going to position this in two different ways, because in one of my older versions of this same mind model, I do it with the 3 Ps. But it's the thing that you wind up doing with questions is you can go after and
Proof.
question so that you get a prove. You want to question somebody so you prove your point. Like, don't you see that I'm right? That's a proving my point. It's a question, but it's not an effective question because it's forcing the other person to either agree with you or fight against you. So if you're going with that, it means that they have to take a negative stance and go to a positioning point of view. So if you're proving, you're probably putting them in a position and causing them to position themselves against what you're trying to prove. Because, go ahead.
Okay, so there's an issue that my husband is always on a judgment state of mind. And when he does that, okay, so he's been cheated on with every person that he's ever been with. His mom abandoned him when he was little, so I know he has a lot of issues there. And so his mind is always in that judgment state. And he then, like, if anything seems awkward, weird to him of me talking to another man, like with my business, like I have to talk to other people, like my mentors, you know, stuff like that. I got to talk to people.
Yeah.
I got to set appointments with people, and some of them are men, you know. So he thinks that is awkward and automatically goes into judgment of me that I am cheating, or I'm going to cheat, or whatever, like that kind of a thing. So how do I stop from taking offense to it? Like,
ask a question.
Okay.
And that is right here is like, you're going after certainty. Like the style of question that you were wanting was an absolute guaranteed way so that you can stop taking offense, right?
Yes.
I can't give you that, but I can give you a process,
Okay.
not a one like quick fix thing, but a process, a model of you going after clarity.
Yeah.
So that you help him get clear while you're getting clear yourself.
Okay.
So number one, first thing is you have to stop going after certainty and just saying, well, I'm not doing that. Okay, that's not what I'm doing. I have to set appointments. I have to do this. I have to do this. And like, would you quit coming down? I am faithful. I am doing everything just fine. Like, you got to trust me. And he goes, time out. I got screwed around by every other woman I've ever known. You're no different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you go, okay, then you have to behave differently. That's where I would take it. That's what I would do is go, okay, yeah, but did any other woman actually want to understand you?
Okay.
And ask that question to start off with. And the honest answer will likely be, if he thinks about it, probably no. They wanted to be understood. They didn't want to understand him. So would you mind, whatever his name is, Roger, would you mind, Roger, if explaining to me what you see is happening here? And just keep it as tight as you can. Don't go into a 5 to 10 minute thing. Just get it down to 1 to 2 sentences. Could you do that with me? Because I want to work at understanding it. And if you give me too much, it's overwhelming for me. Okay? So that's the first thing that I would be saying. Now, you can apply this in business as well. When somebody is making this whole thing, you know, this whole process of us trying to sell to this company has never worked before. I don't get how come you're driving this on. Well, maybe because we might need to find a different way. But can you share with me what you have done in the past so we can figure out a new way to move forward? Do you see the similarities between the two?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so this is a mind model. This isn't a quick fix. This is a way of guiding a conversation, not managing a single person or scenario. So the same thing can be applied across the board. So the next thing that we do is we ask with curiosity, with real curiosity, a clarifying question. Well, actually, we do an alignment process, which I've also covered off in a previous webinar. But the alignment process mind model starts off with, do you mind if I ask you a question? And you're asking permission of him. Have you ever bothered to ask permission of him?
No.
Would that maybe change the entry point of how you engage with him?
I'm sure it would. Yes.
So all of a sudden we're changing the whole dynamic again. I mean, because we are putting everything through in a completely different way. And this again applies if you're helping people who are in your downline. And you're there, and they're coming to you on all the time saying, "Hey, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do." And you just politely, calmly, relatively calmly just say, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" And they say, "No, that's fine." So how might we approach this differently? And all of a sudden they're going, "What? Just give me an answer," or just, "No, this isn't right." No, seriously. Just how might we? Just explore this idea with me. How might we approach this differently? Would it be okay if I tried as best I can to understand your situation, and then we can explore how we move forward? Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. All of a sudden, the emotion is taken down. You've got him or whomever it was that was there, because the language pattern was all why based. Now it's moved into what's. So we're going to get lists of one or more things or events. And when we go into those what's, we're going to start getting into the ability to start understanding the other person. Okay? Now, sorry, this is plug time because I don't have time to go and teach you all of the steps here, but all of this stuff that I'm talking about here is done in detail in Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth. It is a program that we offer, and that is one of the major pieces that we have here. So I spend quite a bit of time with John and, what's her name? The married couple on stage there. Do you remember, Trevor, their names? Larry and what?
Larry and something.
Larry and, sorry, okay. Debbie, do you?
I was saying John and Nadia, but it doesn't sound like that.
No, it's not. It was Larry and his wife. We'll just say
Let's go with that. Yeah.
Anyway, it was Larry.
Rebecca's saying it's Tracy.
Oh, yes, it was. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Rebecca. And John Cooter also. Yes, Tracy. Yes, it is. So Larry and Tracy, and they wound up in the weekend, in the 3 days that I did the training, transforming their marriage because they changed how they were asking questions of each other. And high fives are going back and forth in the chat from John and Rebecca. So Tim and I identify with that a lot. Thanks, John. So, and again, Rebecca and Tim put a lot of things together in their relationship as well, based on Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth. So it is a lot of time where I teach about evaluation, how to do an evaluation effectively, and getting people on stage there to actually walk through a self-evaluation as opposed to self-judgment. So that's one of the things. By the way, Vanessa, when you started your stuff, I flipped you out of self-judgment because you were judging yourself, which is normal because you were positioning and, getting proving and positioning rather than going after process. So the 3 P's to questions are prove, position, and process. The process one has to be done with curiosity. So a lot of the time I also say it's prove, position, and be curious, because that's the fundamental piece. But it's a process. There has to be a flow of information. So that's the critical piece of that one. So the 3 P's of questions. Those are the only 3 things that you can make. Well, not really make, but questions will do this. They'll either cause you to prove, position yourself, or you can be curious and get a process going. Now, proving and positioning means you're attempting to manipulate with questions. And if you do one, if you try to prove, the other person will be almost forced if they don't have skill sets to position. And if you're trying to position, they're going to start proving. And I had a call earlier today with one of our clients and role modeling this. And it was just amazing because I'd ask a question that was approved and the person would start positioning. And then I'd do a positioning thing. Then he'd start proving. I mean, it was exactly what I was doing. And I didn't tell him what I was doing until after the fact. And of course it is. This is just normal human behavior. But if you get curious, you create a process. Again, all of this is explained in detail in Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth, which is relatively inexpensive. So go to our website, rewiringthemind.com. And if you need to, Trevor can throw that in the chat, and just so that you have the direct link to that and take a look at it. Thanks, Trevor.
Yeah, no problem.
So sorry for plugging this, but Vanessa, I just don't have time to go through all the nuances there, and it's all in that training. So anyway, it's all there. So if you have issues with it, then come back and talk to me about it, but it's all in the training. You can go through it. It's not expensive. It's not over the top expensive. It is $497 US. So yeah. And Rebecca says it's so worth it. She and Tim got it. And if you can get your husband to go through it as well too, it can be transformative, because a lot of couples have gone through this stuff together, and it has changed their marriage. But it also rewires your mind for wealth. And one of the things is relationship wealth is critical. In order to make money, you have to have a well-grounded relationship. And that's one of the things that I found out. And yeah, you've got to just get her done right. And that is essential. Okay, so moving along here. We actually have prove, position, and, prove, position, or process. And we want to use curiosity to gain clarity, because clarity is the thing that we're going after. The only way that we can gain clarity is asking questions, but they can't be proving or positioning questions. They have to be what kind of questions, Becky? Debbie?
If I'm understanding, curious questions?
Bingo. Okay. They have to be curious. So can you ask, just for skill practice, can you ask me a curious question? Something that engenders curiosity.
How did you decide to do this live for 25 weeks?
Well, it was just the thing. I wanted to get out there. It's something I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and I've been putting it off for years. And Trevor and I just decided, screw it. We don't have a funnel. We don't have anything else, but I want to get this out before I die. I want to get this information out to people. And so we just decided we're going to start, as opposed to waiting around till everything's perfect, because that never happens. And we just get going with it and see what happens. And by the way, as a result, today in the next couple of days, we have a thing called Mind Model Coach Training that's happening, and we've got our preliminary one, our first one, coming up here. And Dwayne actually joined on. Becky and Tim are on it, and John and his lovely wife are in it as well. And all of a sudden, we have a 5-figure business out of this business, which just happened spontaneously, and we haven't done even a single webinar that for position for sales only. It's an incredibly soft sell, much like I did here, of just saying, this is where you go. If you really want to find out the good quality information on this and figure out how to do this stuff in detail in one place, it's in Rewiring Your Mind for Wealth. And I mean, that's not a hard sell. That's just telling people where it is. And we've got 9 out of the 10 probables right now. We're only taking, well, we'll take a few more, but we've got 10 people that we were targeting to start this thing with, and we've got 9 out of 10 confirmed, and we're just waiting for one more confirmation. So it looks like it's not looks like, we are doing this. So we're already past our 6. We needed 6 for a cutoff, and so that it happens. And we don't have a funnel selling this. We don't have anything other than we've mentioned it. And people have said, pick me. I want to take more I want coach training. I want to be trained as a mind model coach. And because this is cool stuff. And anyway, that's how Dwayne got on board. He just said, that's it. I want it. So I'm going to do what I need to do. Dwayne, did you want to say something?
No, I'm just sitting here just enjoying.
Okay, cool.
I'm liking watching the newbies get picked up.
Because it used to be you a lot. Okay, so questions. So what do we need for clarity?
Curiosity.
You need curiosity. What else do we need to gain for clarity? Vanessa, this is, well, I can lip read and you're saying questions.
Questions.
Yes.
Asking questions to gain clarity.
Absolutely. And they have to be curious. Now,
Yes.
if you're loading your emotion, if your emotion is pissed off, angry, or defensive, okay, it's going to probably be perceived as proving or positioning. It's not going to be curious. That's how come I gave you. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
I like it.
Okay. That is more for me in my mind. And it's one of 2 things that we do. And then I've got this thing called a save ask phrase that my wife and I did years ago. We created a save ask phrase. And the save ask phrase goes something like this. This may not come out completely correct, but can we work on this together? And we follow up do you mind if I ask you a question? And then I use the save ask phrase. And those 2 together start creating a switch in both of your perceptions so that you start realizing, I want to work through this with somebody. I want to shift. I want to transform. I don't want to stay stuck. I actually want to change. And so the save ask phrase really does work, by the way. I saved my ass on more than one occasion. So anyway, other questions. So Vanessa, what do you think so far?
Hey, sorry, I was taking some notes.
Sorry.
I have like a notepad on my computer, but I am really enjoying that. That's a mind blower for sure.
Cool.
That's helped me out a lot for sure.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Excellent. Debbie, what's your takeaways here from this one? You got to go off mute.
Forgot I had muted, sorry. Yeah, so I just had actually a clarifying question. So you mentioned there's 3 or 4 types of questions.
3.
One is 3. So is proving and positioning, are those 2 different ones? Okay, so then the curious is the 3rd.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Now, you can go process or curiosity, but curiosity generates a flow, and process done effectively uses curiosity. So you can do it with the 3 Ps, but you have to use curiosity. If you don't use curiosity and you're going after a process, you can back people up and cause them to get stuck.
Okay.
And that means that you're probably positioning.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense. Okay.
Cool. Okay, so Dwayne, any questions?
I'm good.
Okay, cool. Okay, so so what worked for you guys tonight? Because that's the majority of clarity as a questioning process, and we went through some real world examples here, sort of a bit of a case study with Vanessa, and created language questions that are curiosity based. And the save ask question is, do you mind if I ask you some questions? Blah blah blah, and that loads the intention of being curious into both parties, because you're asking it and the other person has to grant permission. And the first one is, do you mind if I ask you a question? The person now is in control. So you're taking it out of being a power struggle of who's higher or lower, and you're asking, and you're bringing people back together in common ground because of that, because you asked. Do you mind if I ask you a question? And it's not about being high or being low. It's about being equal, because then it's not about proving and positioning. It's now about being curious. So that's really the key piece there. Okay.
Yeah, that's what really got me, that first question. You mind if I ask you a question? Because I've always come in a defensive state, like you were here, just acting so defensive over it, because that's like a belief system for me, a trigger for me from my ex-husband. He used to do the same thing to me. So having that really it triggers me to remember or relive, because I've heard of that mind model too. It caused me to relive the past when my integrity is being questioned like that. So
exactly.
So coming to that, just understanding, I want to understand you, is really going to switch things around.
It can literally save a marriage, just that one thing alone, because it changes the dynamic. Everything changes. And this has been used, I used to do a lot of marriage counseling, and that's one of the things, these two phrases I used all the time in marriage counseling, is when the parties couldn't do it, I said, stop. You guys are proving and positioning. No, these questions don't work. This is not working. So how are you feeling attacked? How are you feeling like I have to defend? Well, hello, has anything really changed? Well, sometimes, I normally attack, she normally defends, but now she's attacking and I'm defending. Well, does that matter? It's not, this is lose. It's not a win. There's no wins in here. Okay. So let's change it around. Do you want to try and save this marriage? Yes. So would you mind humor me and just ask this one simple question? And then I've got one more after that. Just two questions, maybe less than 15 words total. Can you do that? Yes. Okay, great. So first question is, do you mind if I ask you a question? And then one of my couples said, was doing this and said what he said. And I said, no. You actually have to say it to her. You can't use my stuff. You have to actually say it to her. And you go, oh, okay, fine. Well, what he said. And what did you say, Blair? He couldn't remember it. He just wanted to, it was impossible for him to remember. It took 3 or 4 attempts. And that's not uncommon, because we get habituated to the way we think we should behave.
Yes.
And so literally I've told people, get a little card, type it out, laminate it if you have to, put these 2 questions on it and whip it out, so that if you've got to do it that way, you got to do it that way. And sometimes even when you write it down, your mouth won't say the words that are written down. It will take practice. I have seen that on more than one occasion. Okay? So let's wrap this part up. So what else, how would you rate today? Because you've given me, Vanessa, what worked for you. Okay. So scale of 1 to 10, how effective was tonight's webinar for you?
9.5.
Perfect. Debbie, what worked for you, and what number would you put on it?
What worked for me is, I mean, you went over judgment versus evaluation a little bit at the workshop in Denver, but it wasn't clear, I guess. I mean, I really understand what you're saying now. So that really, really worked for me. I feel like if I can teach it to somebody, then I understand it enough to apply it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can teach it to somebody now.
Okay.
So number 1 through 10, for that piece, it was a 10. For the rest, I'd say 8 or 9. It was really good information.
Good. Awesome. So Dwayne, what worked for you tonight?
Trying to learn how to quit losing the battlefield of the mind. Keep things external instead of internal.
Yes. Cool. Internal versus external is another mind model, and it's really, really essential. It's one of the core ones that we've got to use. Great. And 1 to 10?
8.75.
Okay, fine. There we go. Trevor, what worked for you tonight?
The part that there's a couple parts that work, but I did like kind of watching when you're working with Vanessa there and just seeing how you approach that. That was effective for me. And
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So what worked for you in that part specifically when I was approaching? What did you notice?
Well, I noticed that it'd probably be effective for me to watch what you did because I didn't know what would be an effective way.
What mind model did he use?
What mind model?
You're being tested.
Yeah. Well, I think he used several mind models. Getting alignment, I would say, would probably be the main one that he went to. So I thought I didn't know where he was going to go. So seeing that and seeing that it was a simple one, like just getting alignment and how that could then be used to solve so many problems makes a lot of sense.
Perfect. Great. That's spot on. Yeah. So, 1 to 10.
Blair, somebody was asking what's the second question when you said the 2 questions.
Right. So, okay, Debbie, pop quiz. What are the 2 questions?
Okay, so the first question I know is do you mind if I ask you a question?
Yes.
Second question, I wasn't even clear on, was that the one where it's that you were saying this may not come out very completely correct, but I want to, but I'd like to work it out together with you.
Yeah, can we work on it?
Can we work on it? Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how it's a question. That's why I wasn't sure what the question was. And we work on. Okay.
So that's setting the parameters and the boundary, and it's creating safety and comfort for us to move ahead because people are feeling pretty threatened in that environment. And sometimes physical safety is an issue. That takes it down so that it moves it away and you move it into something where it can be discussed and it diffuses the environment. Okay, so, and you're asking for somebody to work on it with you, which means you have to work together. Because marriage is about working things out together, not one person doing one thing, the other person doing another thing. So, okay. Good one, Blair. Oh, what's this? John Sue. To know this, point out specific behaviors. Often things make sense when we watch others do it. Right. Cool. Okay. And well done. That's basically it. And I got April. Oh, Trevor, did you give me a number?
Oh, no, I'll just go with 8.
Perfect. Okay, super. So we've now polished off this section and we'll go to thank you, Vanessa and Debbie, totally, and Dwayne for jumping on here. If somebody wanted to be profiled, I could, that was Debbie that had her hand up earlier. I'm just going to do one tonight, Vanessa.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that Debbie beat you to the punch. Her hand up. Okay, so you can
Okay, yeah, I'll move Vanessa and Dwayne back to attendees, and then Vanessa, just let us know next time you get on, and we'll remember that you wanted to get profiled.
Okay.
Okay.
Super. Thanks, guys, for jumping on here and doing this.
Thank you, Blair.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. By the way, this is a referral business, if you were. So people that are on here, please, if you like this stuff, you know, share it on Facebook, like it, share it, and follow me on Facebook, I guess.
Or even better, what you can do is you can go to our website, rewiringthemind.com. If you scroll down to the very bottom, there's a button that says affiliates. You can click on that, sign up to be an affiliate, and then you can send links to get people to register to this webinar or send people to the homepage where they can purchase the Rewiring the Mind for Wealth program, and you can get a commission on that, even if they came through here first. If you've sent them the link and you help promote it, if they end up buying, then you can get an affiliate commission on it.
Exactly.
If about that, just contact us or email us, and I'll direct you how to get there.
Yeah, and it's the neat thing about this is it's a very low pressure sale, if you will, or buying opportunity, because the affiliate link is just a link to sign up for the webinar, this webinar, which is totally free. So we're not doing, there's no fee to get on here and whatnot, and we're just wanting to help people figure out what mind models are and to spread the word and just transform lives. That's really all that it's about. Okay. Cool. Hey, Debbie, you're going to have to unmute yourself in a second.
Okay, sounds good. No, can't. Jaden will help you find it.
Cool. Okay.
Banished them to the upstairs, so hopefully that will work.
Okay, good. So tell me a little bit about yourself. I won't need much so that I can profile you. I've got a lot of data points, but yeah, just fill me in.
Okay. I am a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool. I used to be a second grade teacher. I've been married for how long? 13 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And what else?
What do you do for hobbies?
For hobbies, mostly read. I watch TV to relax sometimes. What else? I started this business. I started like an MLM business there with a company last August, and then my husband joined me in June. So now we're building a business together through EMP. Nice. Let's see what else. We have a foreign exchange student living with us right now.
Nice.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay, that's enough.
Anything else? Okay.
No, that's enough. It was enough a while ago, but that's okay. It was just
it's just so interesting. Huh?
So, what would you like me to profile you on?
I didn't know there were choices. What are the choices?
Oh gosh, I can more or less fill you in on any aspect of your life. I just don't want to be talking for like hours here. I want to keep down to a topic area, and that this helps me not wander too much. Yeah, and
well, you talked to me in Denver about judgment.
Yes.
That I'm very judgmental, and I see that a lot.
You can be very judgmental.
About what other people think of me and what I'm concerned about what other people will think. Yeah. All that. I don't know. You pick, because I don't know what the choices are. I don't know.
How about building your business and building your business, not just online, but building teams, because that's sort of where you're going to be going next.
Right.
One of the things that I noticed is I saw a different side of you, also with your kids tonight, which is highly effective.
Okay.
Do you notice how you are very, I'm going to argue that this is self-confidence, where you have self-confidence with your kids, where you know that you're effective and you do that. And it seems like your teacher training is coming into play here because it's externally verifiable. You're using processes that you know were not just your opinions, but were taught to you, and you hold on to them as effective models. But you've gone beyond those models in homeschooling, although you've adapted those models to homeschooling so that you're very clear on how to manage your kids effectively. But that's also got you as how you've become a mom as well.
Mm-hmm.
That piece is something that works out very well in terms of how you are with self-confidence, because it's just something that you do, but it's not random. And you don't hold that with high value as I would like you to do, because when you talk about your online business, it drifts into self-doubt. It drifts into conflicts, internal conflicts that are happening, as opposed to confidence. And you try into self-confidence, and you drift back into confidence. Confidence is others identifying your successful use of skills, attitudes, and behaviors. Self-confidence is you self-identifying your own successful use of skills, attitudes, and behaviors. And that's what you do with your education and you doing the homeschooling with your kids. It is, you have self-confidence. It's not up for debate. You know. Whereas in the business area, you don't evaluate yourself the same way. And you're not using EMP as that training base, as like you did with your education learning. You're making it wobblier, less firm, because it's an MLM, because you're not getting your needs met in training from the MLM, and you've gone to EMP to get it, and the two aren't maybe aligning the way that you'd like them to, but you're not clarifying in your own mind exactly what you need to do. So you're going after certainty in some ways and not clarity. So tonight's webinar was like perfect for you in a number of ways, because you're not asking those questions to say, what am I doing that's different? Where am I highly effective in my life? You know that you're highly effective in your life with homeschooling. That's not up for debate. But you don't think about this the same way. You don't do that. And so all of a sudden your business side you're wanting certainty, but you're not seeking clarity. And you're losing out on both sides, because the clarity is, you've got to work at that by questioning. You're not doing that. And the certainty that you're looking for, you're not being given that, because everything that you've been given isn't, for the most part, working well from your upline. And the pieces that you're learning here haven't been proven yet, because you haven't proven them to yourself. But you're not taking on the evidence of what other people are doing and actually making that tightly held evidence. Like I said, there is judgment going on. And in your language pattern here tonight, there was much less judgment and way more curiosity than when I met you in Denver. In Denver, there was a skeptical person in front of me 80% of the time. In front of me tonight, there was, 30-40% skeptic, but an open skeptic, not a skeptic that's open. And I argue that when I met you in Denver, you were a skeptic that was sort of, okay, sometimes I can be open about it, but you weren't really. It was, prove it to me, as opposed to, how can I question this so that I can find out for me and prove it to myself?
That makes sense. Yep. Yep.
Okay. And that model of the lack of curiosity that came across in Denver and the high level of expectation means that if you're not driving the curiosity, you're only going to get what you expect. And that is, you're not going to get the clarity that you need to be able to move forward. And you're going to get a certainty that, see, this won't work either. Because you're setting yourself up for failure, even though you're working your butt off to succeed. Because your model is going not after the questions. So you're not seeking the curiosity of, so what part of this worked? You're leading off with what didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I didn't even though I've been really, really trying.
Yes, you have.
Conversation to switch that around. Yeah, you saying that, it's absolutely true. There's certain aspects where I'm still not swapping it. I'm still not, leading with the curious question. It's, well, this part is still not working, or this is still not working. It's, how do we change it?
That's okay. Like, that is totally okay. All you need to do is say, okay, this part is still not working. Who do I need to talk to? Ask questions of, so I can get this part working. And it's like you're needing to stumble across some kind of, forgive me for saying this way, miracle cure for your problem. And until that miracle happens, that poof, that mindset thing, that belief occurs, then it's going to be there. And I go, the behaviors aren't there to make this thing work on a consistent, predictable basis. It's not the behaviors are, you have to ask the questions, and you may have to ask some of the people around you to say, how can I ask better questions to resolve this problem? You may not even have the questions at a high enough, deep enough, specific enough level to be able to figure out, oh, this is what I need.
Yeah. Okay. I see that. Like, I feel like that's exactly right, that I don't have the deep enough questions yet.
And that takes curiosity.
Better questions.
But look at yourself with your kids when you are in homeschooling. If you don't know where to go in that moment, and frankly, that's been a while since you haven't been able to do it, but I bet you had resources that you used and got in there pretty quick, right?
Yeah. When I first started teaching, there was a sixth grade teacher. I was second grade, and I went to her and said, tell me what you're doing. Help me understand how I can get
Hold it right there. Help me to understand. Finish it.
How I can do this better.
Exactly. That question is not coming out of your mouth in this area, is it? You're trying to figure it out all by yourself.
I think a lot I am,
Like,
and I think
too much.
I think so. And I think it's partly because they're saying, you've got to do this. We're not going to do it for you. But they're also there as mentors, and I need to utilize that. Exactly,
because all you have to do is show, this is the part that I'm stuck on. I don't need help with everything. I'm not getting past this block. All right, it's a barrier, block, or belief right at this moment. What did you do to overcome this? You got to make your questions more specific, because you would go to that grade 6 teacher or whatever teacher you went to with specific issues, not generally.
Right.
It's not fix me. Or just make it happen. Wave your magic wand and make it happen. That doesn't work in here or anywhere. And it didn't work back with the grade 6 teacher, because she wouldn't have put up with that crap of saying, well, then put your kids back in school and quit trying to homeschool them if that's all you're going to do is throw your hands up when you get stuck. That's not acceptable. Well, it's not acceptable here either. You have to figure out what part's working and what part is not working. Those questions are questions you have to ask yourself first, and then go with, I want to confirm that what I think is working, fill somebody in, a mentor in with that, and say, I think I'm doing this effectively. Does this make sense to you? Yes or no? I want feedback. It's not, I want you to do it for me. It's, I want feedback.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I can speak authoritatively on this because our company was hired to engage EMP, everybody in EMP. Right. There's really nobody that isn't. So you can actually take it up with me if they're not doing this, if they're just deflecting. But if you figure out what's working, what's not working, and you go, confirm to me that what I'm thinking I'm doing is working, they should be questioning you back so that they cause you to engage with that in a way that tells you, oh, yes, this is probably working. Or at the very least, the tests that I'm doing are reasonable to define whether or not it works or not. Because it has to be identifiable, repeatable, and duplicatable. That's what EMP is based on as well, because it's all testable stuff. So come I love internet stuff because it subconsciously follows the same thing. It's got to be identifiable. You have to name and label it. You got to know what you're doing. It's got to be repeatable. You've got to do the same thing. So if you place an ad on Facebook and you design it similarly, change it, the thing you've named and labeled, the places that you can change out the different parts of the ad, fine. You change it out, you test it out, you change a word, you do what you need to do to change the different things and test it. And John Cooter was on the EMP webinar, and I was on the same webinar, and he happened to be actually on that webinar where he was showing his ads to Brandy. And Brandy was doing a wonderful job of testing him. And then he was going along this idea here of saying, well, this is what we're doing. And she said, well, you need a minimum of 3,000. I'd recommend 5,000 views before you figure out anything of what that is and take this other ad, wait till it catches up to that, park the other one and do that. Now, after that, remove the one thing and test it by removing the learn more button. Because the learn more button may have to come off and it might work better before. And she said, you won't know. I don't know. It's just one thing that I tested. But before she did that, she gave him that information. She asked two questions, the same question, two different ways. What might you do differently, John, to this app? He never came up with the idea of taking off the learn more button. She tested. He didn't know. She filled in. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, she's really good at that.
She's really good at that. Yeah. Thanks to us. Sorry for plugging, and that may sound arrogant, but that's also the truth, because she wanted to tell when I was out with her in LA before I started kicking her butt around the block to say, you got to start asking questions and you've got to stop telling people everything. It was such a different Brandy, and she's doing an excellent job now. Yeah, so it's huge. So it's great. So those are some of the key pieces. So in your mind, you have to start shifting. So what are you going to shift to?
Those curious questions I've got to get. I'd like to get, because that started sounding like a judgment. I'd like to get to what you said about, and I don't know if I can repeat it, but what you said about that I was first coming forward with, this just isn't working, and that frustrated emotion. Yeah, that's where I start at. And like I said, even with all this even with all of my work trying to replace judgment things, I didn't realize I was doing that. And so that's what I need to work on first.
So let's get that down to something that's even tighter.
Okay.
A 2-word question. What worked?
Okay.
So write that down. Ask myself what works or what's working.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you say that, I just thought, I'm always asking myself what's not working.
I know. And you're doing this in an ass backwards order. It's not effective.
Yeah.
Because you've got to start with what's working first.
Okay.
And then when you talk to somebody like Brandy or any of the other mentors, you can ask, I believe this is working. Can you confirm this?
Okay.
But you've now got specific information. And, you know, your language pattern is consistently telling me right now, you're going to general and general negative first.
Okay.
So it's not effective. Now what we have to do is we have to flip it around and go to general, get it away from general, go to specific. And we got to go to specific, what's working first.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Okay. Then we go to what's not working.
Yeah.
But you never, I hate never and I love never. Because in this one case, it is never. There is no effective way of building your self-confidence, building your ability to build on successes if you start with what's not working first. You can't build on what's working because you're building on what's not working, and that means you're just going to dig a hole deeper for yourself every single time. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what do you do with your kids? Do you constantly tell them what's wrong with them?
No.
Or do you let them know that, hey, they did a great job?
Yeah.
And then you point out points of improvement.
Well, sometimes I switch those with them.
Yeah, but sometimes, but they've already known that they do good work first, correct? Like you're a good kid. I love you. Like, it's not like, hey, you're frustrating me. You're frustrating mommy again. Go away. Right, I know that that's not possible because those kids love and adore you. Okay. They're there and they listen to you. And they do that out of love and respect at that age. They love you. They respect you. You hold them in high esteem and they hold you in even higher esteem because it feels good, because you point out the fact that you care and love them. That care and love comes out of what are they doing that is lovable? You know, Vanessa is still on here. I don't know if she is or not. But for those people, one of the things that I do in marriage counseling for everybody else that's on here is just say to people, I forgot to mention this, but it's simply ask the question, what do you love about me? Like that's what Melissa and I used to do. It's just ask that question. So, Melissa, what do you love about me? Okay. And when you answer that, then you know what I know what she did, like what I did for her or to her or around her that she loves about me. And that makes all the difference in the world. That transforms everything. So we have what was that? It was Christina. Holy okay, sometimes I notice when the mentor asks those questions, it is out of place. Could that be true? For example, in the last workshop, I felt like I was asked a question. What I would just get asked, what would I do differently, and not get an answer to my questions. So I got the feeling like they didn't want to ask, or Okay, so that's carrying that questioning a little too far, Christine. However, the point here is that we have to get people engaging. And when people engage with a different way of working through and resolving a problem, that's when we actually start asking questions. This is a work in process. So give these mentors another 3 to 6 months to get their skills up, because we've barely spent any real time with them and they're trying out new behaviors. So I honestly, yeah, you can blame me for that. Don't blame them, because I'm the guy that's well, myself and Melissa are the people that are doing that, and they're just babies at this. They were there were so many issues that we're working on simultaneously. Please don't expect them to be perfect right off the hop. No, I don't blame anybody. Thank you so much. And yes, that's what I thought it was, smiley face. Thank you for your kindness and regard. We are working with this to get this sorted out. Our goal, TJ's, Matt's, and Fernie's goal here is to actually make the mentors, the facilitators, and the coaches and trainers literally world-class and be able to resolve these issues on the fly. We're not even close to getting there yet, but we're making incremental improvements, and we're teaching foundational skill sets to make this stuff happen. And that's where we're at. So we're just taking the first baby steps on making this happen. So we're a couple of months in. We need 2 years to make this happen, and that's what we've been hired for by them to make this happen. So just sharing, and thank you for your understanding. Appreciate it. Okay, Debbie, I'm not sure where to take it from here in the profile, because it turned into a profile/coaching session, which it frequently does, and I wanted to wrap this up sometime fairly tightly. So anyway, so what works for you here in the profiling?
Getting more clarity with where I'm still lacking with in my change in judgment to evaluation road.
Mm-hmm.
So that, yeah.
And overall, how effective was this for you, scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, a 10, no question.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, if we can bring Trevor back on here. Thank you, Trevor.
Hello.
And so we'll just wrap this up. We'll put Debbie back as a participant.
Okay.
Thank you, Blair.
Thanks, Debbie.
Andy, thanks so much for jumping on. I hope you get on next week as well. It was fun having you on, and Vanessa and whatnot. So
yeah, next week is, I'm assuming we'll take Christmas off. I think that lands on a Tuesday, but you never know. We might just decide to do it anyway.
No. I'm not doing it Christmas or New Year's. No.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, far away.
I just noticed with the scheduled webinar, it looked like this week and the next week, and then it said until the 18th.
Yeah,
so,
the last one I have scheduled is technically next week. I have to add more or so.
Oh, okay. So it's not that you're finishing the series. It's that
it's
you
just
need to
when I set it up
that's
9 weeks ago, I only did it for 20. Yeah, that's what I did.
Okay. Okay. So it's not stopping. You're not.
No. We're not.
Okay.
Yeah, this is not it. Yeah, 25 and poof, we're done.
Yeah. That's it.
No warning.
Yeah, no warning. Just cut it off. That's it. We did our thing. That's it. So yeah,
thank you.
It's still going to be happening. So again, if you know of people, bring them on. Yeah, and I love the fact that
I'd love to get him in there.
Yeah. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. So anyway, the webinar is continuing. The thing is, jump on Rewiring Your Mind, Rewiring the Mind website that Trevor put in here in the chat, and jump on that, go to that, and then sign up as a affiliate, and then refer people and to this, because it's free. And the cool thing is, if they come on at some time in the future to, like we're doing the Mind Model Coach training, and that's going to be $1,000 affiliate fee. So it's not bad. And that's just because they came on here and you brought them in.
Yeah. So is that what you were mentioning earlier that Becky and Tim are doing?
Yes. They're on board with that, and Dwayne's on board, and John is on. John and his wife, John Cooter, and his wife are on board doing.
How do we find out more info on that, or is that too late?
No, it's not.
It's not too late.
I didn't know if.
Do you want more info on that?
I'd like more info on it. Yeah.
Okay. So is the email that you signed up for this a good email to reach you at?
That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just follow up with you. And if anybody else that's watching, if you're interested in learning more about the Mind Model Coach Training Program, just respond to any of the emails and let us know. And I'll reach out to you guys with more information.
Awesome. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and that's about it. So please let us know, and that's it. So, yay, Tim. Yeah. Okay, guys, I won't keep you up any later. And I have still not topped my record of almost 3 hours of this webinar. So it's only an hour and 45 minutes almost. So it's a short one tonight, relatively speaking. So
I don't know, they're creeping up again.
I know. I wanted to keep this down to like an hour. I had a very long day. Well, no.
We got to stop talking. We're just adding more time.
Yeah, we are. Okay, guys, I'm done. That's it. I'm out. Talk to you guys next week. Have a great week. Enjoy it.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye for now.